All right. So, sometime last night, don't know when it was exactly, but Russia decided to send military forces into Ukraine. Oh, great. Okay, I'm of the opinion that war is a total waste. All it does is cause death, destruction, and misery. But it seems other people don't think that way, particularly the presidents of some of these countries like Russia. Presidents, leaders, kings, queens, prime ministers, whoever they are, it always seems to be one guy that starts all this stuff. Okay, so what's the consequences of that? Obviously, for people who live there, it's not good. But for the rest of the world, of course, the news is absolutely plastered today with headlines about how oil prices have gone above $100 a barrel, which there's nothing really that wild about that. That happened in 2014, and I don't remember really hearing much about it at all. Life went on, and I don't really remember it being a big deal. It also happened in 2008, which in 2008 it was a very, very big deal. It was a very big deal. And the interesting thing about the 2008 situation is the psychology of it here in the U.S. was moving. People really were like, dude, we gotta lay off on the Ford Explorers and the Suburbans. Like, our cars are too big. George W. Bush actually got on TV and he said, America is addicted to oil. I can't reproduce his accent very well, but he said America is addicted to oil. That's a pretty crazy thing to say for you to hear from George W. Bush. And 2008 came and went. Financial crisis came. The oil price cratered back down to, I remember gas was like $1.12 a gallon in January of 2009. It was wild to see that. Never thought that prices were gonna drop like that ever again. But they did. And of course, a few years go by, and people forgot all about it, right? Because the best-selling cars in the United States now are Ford F-150s, SUVs. Some of the manufacturers don't even want to make sedans anymore because they can just make profit better off of the SUVs because they have a higher margin on those. So what does all this mean with this oil situation? And the more I think about it, the more renewable energy I want to see going in place here and everywhere in the world. Okay, fossil fuels, obviously their environmental issues are well known and everybody talks about that. And the popular idea, the news and the media and the popular concept is the whole thing, we seem to be told by whatever authorities that the reason we're doing renewable energy is because of global warming. That's the reason. And I think about it like, wait a minute. And then there's a lot of other reasons to invest in renewable energy and move off of fossil fuels. And actually, there are reasons that are probably better than just global warming, climate change. There are very serious economic consequences, and I say consequences in a good way, very serious economic benefits of going to renewable energy and investing heavily in it. Okay, so the economics of solar power, wind power are incredibly shifted over the past 15 years. Most people that I meet and I talk to about renewable energy, they have in their brains a idea about these things from 2008. They think of solar and wind energy in the state that they were in 2008. Expensive and not well developed yet. We are drastically changed from that. You know, last year, 290 gigawatts of renewable energy generating capacity was added worldwide. It's like the equivalent of 70 nuclear power reactor plants, 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plants, 70 of those. Okay, that is an astonishing amount of renewable energy that was added in 1 year during a supply chain crisis, during a pandemic. Think about it. That is incredible to see that kind of growth rate. And when I talk, you know, every time we talk about oil and $100 oil, the problem with fossil fuels ultimately is that you are actually drilling for or mining for a chemical substance that contains the energy. It's sort of like food. So you have to eat every day. Your person is constantly eating. You have to constantly take in new food. And the food that you eat is used, and once it's used, that's it. It's done. You have to go find more. Fossil fuels are like that. Once you use them, they're finished. There is no more. You cannot use that coal or that oil or that gas again. You've got to go to Vladimir Putin and you've got to ask him, I need more oil. Sell me more oil. All right, $120 a barrel. Here you go. Take it. Pay for it and take it. And tomorrow you're going to be back for more because you burned it and you need more. When you burn your gallon of gasoline, it's gone. That money, in terms of you, microeconomically, that money has vaporized, has literally gone into the atmosphere. And renewable energy is not like that. So we got our miniature little 20-watt solar panel here. This is just a miniature model version, which is functional, it works. But it's a small solar panel compared to what we have outside and up on the roof. And this is a little bit different type of energy because when you buy this, you're not paying for energy right there and then. You're paying for energy access. So all this is just a device that converts light that's already in the environment, that's already out there, into electricity then you can use. And the key difference is once you have this, you don't have to come back next day and buy another one because this one was burned to ash. Okay? You don't have to light it on fire in order to make it work. You set it outside and it just sits there. Light hits it and makes electricity. Then the sun goes down, comes back up the next day, and it happens again. And it's just as good. And repeat that for 25, 30 years, and suddenly this single item that you have purchased generated the equivalent of tons and tons of coal or tons of oil. So one of those 60 cell 310 watt solar panels that's outside of here can make the equivalent of like 10 times its weight in coal every single year. Over its lifetime, that solar panel will make like 3 tons worth of coal. I'm talking like over 25 to 30 years. 3 tons out of a solar panel that weighs 40 pounds. People are so worked up over the idea we have to mine for minerals to build these things. Yeah, that's true. But you aren't lighting it on fire and incinerating it and then going back the next day to get more because it's gone. You build it once and you use it and it gives you the energy. We're taking the amount of resources that we need. Like I said, 3 tons versus 40 pounds for the solar panel. It's like factors of hundreds less stuff that's actually being used. And wherever you're located, the energy is not dependent upon the whims of some politician, some autocratic leader, some financier, some billionaire, some businessman. Once you have your solar array, or we have them installed, they just do their thing. And the only thing that's going to stop that is a dome being built over top of the thing, over top of the ground that blocks the sun out. So you got to be like Montgomery Burns in The Simpsons and build the dome and block out the sun. Unless that happens, it doesn't matter what Putin does. It doesn't matter what Kim Jong-un does. It doesn't matter what Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia does. It does not matter. It does not matter what the price of oil is. Like right now, natural gas is seeing somewhat of an increase too. And that's causing the prices for electricity to rise around here. Because a lot of our, probably 40% of our power in this region comes from natural gas fired plants. And that's caused the rates to go up for generation. But guess what? Not for me, because I have solar. So that solar generates power and doesn't cost any more today than it did yesterday or that it will tomorrow. It's fixed. So whatever was invested, amortize that over 15, 20 years or however long you want to do it. And I'm basically getting electricity from my solar panels for 3 or 4 cents a kilowatt hour, assuming that I do it over 20 years, which, you know, that's a long time, but the electricity is super, super cheap if you consider it that way. Doesn't matter what happens to natural gas prices. Doesn't matter what happens to coal prices. I pay the same. And unfortunately, the people around here who don't have renewable energy on their house, or that we don't have it on the grid in large quantities, means that we're subject to all those commodity markets. Whereas with this stuff, those effects are greatly reduced, especially if you invest in this early and get the stuff installed so we can enjoy it over the coming decades. So that's renewable energy. Great opportunity to eliminate the actual energy purchases. You're not purchasing, with renewable energy, you are not purchasing energy. You're purchasing access to energy. And it's a one-time investment, or at least a long-term investment. If you're purchasing the access to energy for several decades. And you can charge your electric car. We now have the technology, obviously, for personal vehicles to be powered by renewable energy. That's something that really barely existed 15 years ago. And it wasn't practical for most people. Now, probably 90% or better of the population could do 100% of their driving in an electric vehicle. You know, the only people who might have trouble is if somebody that's taking a lot of long distance rides and they don't want to be inconvenienced by having to charge. I don't know. I can tell you right now that if I drove an electric vehicle and I was going so far that the battery was going dead, I would not want to stop for 5 minutes and keep driving. I would stop, you sit down, you have something to eat, you take a rest, charge up, and then go on your merry way. But everybody's different. So access to energy. You're buying access to energy. We're not buying energy itself. And it's a major, major shift. And it can help us eliminate this situation where we're dependent upon large corporations, strange politicians in other countries or even our own country, financiers, financial markets, and insulate us from all of that stuff. So that's it. Benefits of renewable energy beyond environmental.